People have disagreed for decades on everything from sports teams to politics, but we seem to have lost our ability to be civil when others don't share our point of view. Here with advice to help turn things around, we welcome the author of I Respectfully Disagree, How to Have Difficult Conversations in a Divided World, Justin Jones-Fosu. Thank you for being here with us today.
I'm super grateful. Thank you so much, Hannah.
All the way from the East Coast, we're so happy to have you in studio with us.
Yes, and thank you for the weather today.
Yes, you're welcome. I was saying it's hot for us, but you're handling it okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about respectful disagreement. What does that mean, and how do we approach it in a healthy and respectful way?
Yeah, so a lot of times I often hear people talking about, let's just agree to disagree.
Yes.
But what I realize is that people can agree to disagree very disrespectfully and or dismissively. And so respectful disagreement isn't about honoring someone. It isn't about holding them in high esteem. It's simply about valuing their humanity. So if we juxtapose, it's talking about humanization versus dehumanization. Do I see them as an object to be conquered, or a human being that's worthy of value, dignity, and respect? And so that's respectful disagreement.
That makes a lot of sense. And do you find a lot of times when we're having difficult conversations that we in our own mind, we're too focused on getting our own point of view across that we're not even really listening to the other person?
100%. I think a lot of times we spend so much time trying to prove our point that we're sometimes even arguing over different points, right? And so one of our pillars is seek the gray, and it's really trying to find that place of common ground where, what do you mean by that? So recently I made that post about respectful disagreement, and had a lot of people, especially even some potential trolls, that were like, oh, I don't need to do that. I don't. And for me, it's a great opportunity to practice what I teach. And so I asked, well, how do you define respect? And I was able to kind of have a conversation, even online, with even we're defining it differently, and so maybe just receiving alignment on how we define it can help us move forward. Even online, you can have a meaningful, constructive conversation if you approach it the right way. It can be very challenging, let's just say the least. I was in my hotel room like, but it's better to pick up a phone. So when one of the conversations I started to notice turn, what I asked is, hey, would you be open to an Instagram call?
Oh, nice.
Because I realized one of the worst places to have really challenging conversations is online, because you don't get tone. Totally. And so, unfortunately, I have not got a response back yet. Okay, we're still waiting on that one. Yeah. You have 5 pillars to kind of walk us through respectful disagreement. The first being challenge your perspective. That can be really tough. It is. It was tough for me. My mom was one of the first black female air traffic controllers in the Air Force. Wow. And she shared a story with me that she was stationed in Japan for 2 years, and sometimes in that 2-year time frame, there were some soldiers who never left base. And she was like, Justin, I don't want you and your brother to be like that, to never leave your home base. And so she would take us to events we disagreed with. Okay. Right? And what it began to cultivate in me was I was challenging my perspective. I was learning. And so before disrespectful or respectful disagreements occur, I encourage people to intentionally engage different perspectives. And one way to do that is what we call Circles of Grace Challenge, where every 6 to 12 months I go to events, experiences, or I engage with people in either which I don't know a lot about or I disagree with. It's about recognizing the humanity, like you said earlier, that these people are out here, they're going to disagree with us no matter what. So it's good to just kind of understand a little bit more about their perspective. Be the student. Is that kind of another factor in that? Yeah, so be the student is actually now I'm in the disagreement. I mean, and I'm not just talking about big societal things. I'm talking about who's better, the Ducks or Washington or Oregon State. I don't know. Dicey. But when we're being the student, we focus less on lecturing and more on listening and learning. So there's a great theory called an inverted U theory that says there's 2 places that people don't learn. One when they think they know absolutely everything, and one when they think they know absolutely nothing. And so when you're being a student in a conversation, you take on the posture that my mom taught me, is that somebody can teach us anything. It doesn't matter who they are. And so when we approach a person from a student, I focus more on, I wonder what I can learn from this person, even if they have an ideology that's way beyond what I think is right. That's so cool. Okay, cultivate your curiosity. Yeah, so we focus on filling in the gaps with curiosity rather than conclusions. Now, my TEDx, Don't Take the Exit on People, focused on what the brain does. Because Monday through Friday, you take this exit, and then one day you're supposed to go straight. What do? You take the exit, right? Because our brain wants to conserve energy for things it doesn't know. Autopilot, so what if we yes, but what if we approached every person with a beginner's mind? And we said, hey, what can I learn? Not only what can I learn, but what if I leaned in and asked more questions?
Sure.
And was more curious? Tell me more about X.
Yeah.
And that would help me to learn and grow.
Even if it's uncomfortable, sometimes you just never know what you could find out on the other side of that. You mentioned this earlier, seek the gray.
Yeah.
It can be so hard. I think we all want to have concrete answers, yes or no, right or wrong, but that's just not the reality of the world.
Yeah, and Hannah, there's 50 shades of it. And so we have to approach the gray in many unique different ways. And the gray is finding common ground. The gray is, say we're talking about gun rights versus gun control. We both really care about our families.
Yeah.
Now, how we approach it is different. But a body of research called conversational receptiveness talks about how even when you're disagreeing with someone, if you are able to hedge your claims or talk with them in not absolutes, but to find the gray, people are willing to have more and more conversations with you because you're at least considering their perspective.
That's true. Why do you think it's become so tough, and why these conversations have become so uncivilized and we're just kind of screaming at each other so much?
I think it's always been there. I think the undercurrents of social media has put us into a monologue.
Sure.
So it's so much easier for me to just go and share my perspective and wait for people to like it. Hopefully they'll tweet it or do all the things with it. But that's not real conversation. All right, one of the best books I ever read during my MBA was Dialogue, The Art of Thinking Together. And until we have an opportunity to really think together versus putting on a monologue, we can't come to places where we find mutual understanding, or even simply that, hey, I respect your position, I respect you having your position, even if I don't value it, and I'm going to have my own, but I still respect you as a human being.
Yeah, I'm still going to hear you out. Okay, and like you said, agree to respect. That's pillar number 5.
Yeah, it's always our choice. A lot of us, a lot of the comments I've received online and things, it's like, I could never do that. I'll never, that perspective, or this, they believe in this, I can never. And I tell people, it's always our choice. A very quick story, one of my former colleagues, who's a former skinhead, he shared that the seeds of change for him were that the people that he demeaned and disrespected, those who still chose to show him respect, were part of that catalyst for change for him.
Wow.
And so what if in our conversations, it's not about screaming at them? What do people learn when we're attacking them? But what if we're just planting seeds of respect that maybe later on they'll come around? It's
tough to change somebody's mind or whole ideology in a single conversation, 100%. But if you show them their respect, they'll come back again and you can talk more.
Yeah.
What do you find in terms of having conversations that might be difficult in different social situations versus close loved ones like family? Sometimes that's the hardest place of all. People that you're related to that you really don't want to ruffle their feathers.
Yeah. So one of the things, we interviewed one of the people for our book. Her name is Darcy, and she talked about, she disagreed with her dad around some political things, right? And she's heard his perspective, he's heard her perspective, and part of respectful disagreement for her was she reached out to her dad, very vulnerable and honest. She's like, Dad, every time I come to the house, we're always having the same conversation. And she was like, I don't want to look back in our lives and realize that we wasted opportunities to truly connect.
Yeah.
So are you okay if we don't have these specific conversations so that we can fully engage? And fortunately, he said yes. And that was one of the ways that she leaned in to respectful disagreement. Because respectful disagreement doesn't mean we always have to talk about it.
Totally.
It means, how do I still honor you even amongst our disagreements?
And they heard each other and they said, okay, I see where you're coming from, you know where I'm coming from. We don't have to beat it to death and create more conflict. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Absolutely.
Such a great conversation. The book again is I Respectfully Disagree, and we'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this. Thank you so much.